Now tuned into the greatest.
So when that bag come, I won't fumble. I'm just stacking on the low, but hey, I'm tired of being humble. Let me get to it. That motivation music. Get control of your life, don't let nobody else do it. Cause I'm not gonna have Metro S550s cruising. Like you winning on the ground.
Yes, sir. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Run with me, Manny Wilson, all the way from Detroit to Chicago to your speakers and headphones. Now, I appreciate you tuning in to the first interactive sports podcast, a community that makes sure your voice is heard. So if you hear something you agree with, you disagree with, you like or you dislike, or even if you just want to outsmart me on something I said, leave us a quick take on the voicemail line, 219-413-9405. And of course, we will play your take back on our next episode. And then speaking of the next episode, shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring this episode. Get $20 off your first ticket purchase when you use the promo code The Run Podcast. Now, this code can only be applied for first-time users on the mobile app or website. So I don't know about you, but it's a lot of great games happening this week in the NFL. Baseball playoffs is about to get started. So, that's another point, another game you could go see. Concerts, all of that stuff. So this is the time to go see it. Anyway, reverting back to football season, man, we got a great matchup here. One of the matchups I want to see this season actually is between the Baltimore Ravens and the Detroit Lions. Now, this is going to be a crucial game. This is week 3 of the NFL. Both teams coming in 1-1. They lost a matchup early on in this season. And between the Ravens and the Lions, I got to tell you, man, I'm sorry, Lions fans, but I'm going with the Ravens, no doubt. Ravens money line, I'm hammering it every single time with this bet here. Because specifically, man, in this matchup, Baltimore Ravens, Detroit Lions, let me just tell you, bro, the Lions haven't beat the Baltimore Ravens in a regular game since 2005. And even yet, they played 5 times since 2005. 2 of those games were decided by less than 3 points, but the other 3 were straight blowouts. And then even more, let me tell you this. The Detroit Lions have never, ever in football history beat the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore at all. Since these teams been playing against each other, they have never beat the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. So I'm just like, I can't really go aside from the Ravens in this matchup here because it just makes sense that the Ravens will win at home in Baltimore here. So obviously things can happen. Anything can happen. The Lions have a different team. They came off a hot game the other week against the Chicago Bears, but you just never really know. And the main reason I even say, aside from the statistics, I'll put it that way, aside from the statistics of the Lions never beating the Ravens in Baltimore or the Lions losing to the Ravens every game since 2005, aside from those things, I also think the Lions struggle against mobile quarterbacks. If you think of all the quarterbacks that have given the Lions trouble, go back to the playoffs last season. Jaden Daniels, mobile quarterback. He tore the Lions apart. You go back to even other guys. Josh Allen last season tore the Lions up. Lamar Jackson has been doing it. Since the Lions have been good, he's been tearing the Lions up. But even last season, you look at when the Lions match up against Baker Mayfield, a guy who's not completely a mobile quarterback, but can use his legs and generate plays. The Lions typically struggle against quarterbacks like this. So going against the best quarterback in the NFL, who's good in every single aspect, man, it's just going to be tough. And I think the Ravens will give the Lions the business. Obviously, an area where the Lions can exploit, and I think they have a shot. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's going to be a blowout type of game, but I think the Lions have a shot because Humphries is out. So the safety for the Baltimore Ravens, he'll be out. Obviously, that leaves the Ravens a little bit exposed in the secondary there. So to me, when I'm looking at these different type of things, if the Lions can somehow have an offensive explosion like they did last week against the Chicago Bears in week 2, then maybe they can pull this game off. But I don't think if it's not a blowout, which I doubt happens, I don't think the Lions win. Close games have typically worked in the Ravens' favor whenever these two teams have matched up against each other. So I think if it comes down to a one possession type of game, somehow we see the Ravens end up winning again. Obviously, if it comes down to offensive possession, anything can happen with the way the Lions' offense has been lately. But that's just the area where I'm not too certain on, really. Yeah, I know the Lions, they put up 50 against the Bears. Any game where any team scores 50 points is a lot of points. Do not get me wrong, but hear me out. those 50 points against the Chicago Bears don't really tell me that the Lions offense is back. Just because week 1, they looked a little rough. It's only been 2 games. One was against a really good defense in the Packers. The other was against the Chicago Bears, whose defense is not really good right now. They have a lot of injuries on that defense. So it's hard for me to be on the side of, the Lions offense is back. The Lions is going to be this offensive firehouse, how they were the past few years, when it's still super early on in the season. This game against the Baltimore Ravens will let us know what type of Lions team we're going to see throughout the season and what type of Lions offense we can kind of count on, because it's still hard to tell with the first 2 games, but hey man, the Ravens always are competitive. They're a solid defensive team, and yes, they are exposed a little bit in the secondary, but ultimately, man, it's going to be tough to beat the Baltimore Ravens. And I see the Ravens really kind of getting their way from an offensive standpoint against the defensive Lions. Now, the thing that worries me with the Lions, the defensive front, Marcus Davenport is down on the defensive front there. So that's a little scary too, because now you lose another guy who is a great defensive mind and another starter ultimately who can probably chase down Lamar Jackson and just, be able to help the scheme to contain Lamar Jackson, if anything. So it's going to be a battle, but ultimately I'm going to go here with the Baltimore Ravens winning this game. Now, this is a Monday night game, so it's going to be a minute if you listen to this right on the Thursdays. But above all, man, these quarterback matchups is really the biggest thing. Just the mobile quarterbacks, man. I think of all of the mobile quarterbacks that the Lions have played, and it just hasn't worked in their favor. Like the last few games, even going back to see some of the games, like the Josh Allen matchup last year against the Buffalo Bills. It was close. It was a close game. But ultimately, Josh Allen found a way to get a win. You look at some of the other games, Baker Mayfield last year. Yeah, he was there, but he found a way to get a win. I mean, Lamar Jackson last year when he played the Lions found a way to get a win. So for some reason, good quarterbacks just find a way to win. So that kind of brings me to the next thing that I'm going to talk about actually later on in the show is the top 5 quarterbacks. But before that, man, we got some news coming up in just a sec. So you can't really go anywhere. Got some more things I'm going to break down. A lot of matchups actually happening in the NFL this week. It'll be some good matchups, and it'll kind of let us know, give us some more information on who we think is hot and who we think is not. So we'll break that down in just a sec, but don't go anywhere. It's halftime. All right, man, welcome back to The Run with me, Manny Wilson. Let's get into it, man. We got some news for The Run. Let's start off with the matchups in week 3 that you can expect to watch. So today's Thursday night football. You got the Miami Dolphins versus the Buffalo Bills. Ain't no way I'm even giving the Dolphins a chance to win this game. Bills all the way. Bills by 40. So that'll be crazy. Anyway, you got the Atlanta Falcons versus the Carolina Panthers. This game is going to be happening in North Carolina. Packers. Did I say Packers or Panthers? I hope I said Panthers. But Falcons versus Panthers is going to happen in North Carolina. You got the Green Bay Packers versus the Cleveland Browns. That'll be happening in Ohio. The Colts versus the Titans. Bengals versus the Vikings. No Joe Burrow, so you'll have Browning stepping in instead of Joe Burrow. So we'll see what type of Bengals team this is going to be with no Joe Burrow. I mean, last week they somehow pulled out the win, but I mean, hey, Vikings, maybe they'll step it up. But the thing about the Vikings and the Bengals in this matchup is Vikings also won't have J.J. McCarthy starting. This will be 2 backup quarterbacks. You'll have Carson Wentz versus Browning in this matchup between the Bengals and the Vikings. So hopefully it's still a good game. And I think I'm excited to see Carson Wentz play, former MVP of the league. Maybe anything could possibly happen. Maybe he comes out and secures the starting spot for good. Like, who knows? But I'm interested to see that matchup between those two. I think it'll be unique. But that's happening in Minnesota. Outside of that, you got the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Patriots in Foxborough. You got the Rams versus the Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles are at home in that game. Buccaneers versus the Jets in Tampa, Florida. Commanders versus the Raiders. Texans playing Jaguars. Broncos playing the Chargers. Then you got the Saints playing the Seahawks. Cowboys will be taking on the Bears in the home opener for the Chicago Bears. We'll see what they do. Last week, it was a couple things that they did improve on, and some things they still need to work on. But I mean, ultimately, I've seen progress from week 1 to week 2, so we'll see how it goes there. I'll usually never cheer for the Cowboys, so in this rare occasion, I'm hoping the Bears actually beat the Cowboys, because I don't want the Cowboys to ever win games, and I'm just nah. They can still continue to suffer a few more years. Other than that, Bears are trying to get their first win of the season, though. They're 0-2 right now, so they're trying to get their first win and see what it does. And you got the Cardinals, Arizona Cardinals versus the 49ers, and the Kansas City Chiefs will be playing the New York Giants in New Jersey. And then Monday Night Football, as I mentioned, you have the Baltimore Ravens versus the Detroit Lions. Now, I'm excited because coming into the season here, there's a couple different things that were discussed, and there's some things that we need to revisit. We'll revisit it mid-season as well, and also before the playoffs. But I think it's extremely important that we establish right now, coming into the season, week 1 through week 3, and so far in the beginning of the season, the top 5 quarterbacks, who they are, because there's some confusion on who we think is the top 5 quarterbacks. So I'm going to initially lay it out. And again, we'll revisit this conversation mid-season and give a refresher on who's still in this top 5 slot. But right now, top 5 coming into the season and early on, you got Lamar Jackson at number 1 for sure, without a single doubt in my mind. Josh Allen at number 2. Joe Burrow at number 3. Yeah, he's always hurt, so he probably won't be in there mid-season. Patrick Mahomes at number 4. And then number 5, man, I know a lot of y'all ain't gonna like it, but Jalen Hurts is in there at number 5, bro. I gotta give it to Jalen Hurts. I know it's a lot of people who can debate the number 5 slot of who's there at quarterback. Some people might even go Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott was at number 5 for me for some time. Now I think the conversation even needs to turn toward Baker Mayfield of possibly being a top 5 quarterback. But hey, I'll explain all of that stuff a little later. The point is now that Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback. It kills me to say this because I hate the Eagles. I don't ever want to see the Eagles win. They're annoying. I know a lot of people don't like the Eagles, and I get it, but it's almost a stretch not putting Jalen Hurts in that top 5 conversation. Because if you're starting a football team, think of it from this perspective as well. If you're starting a football team and you want a quarterback who can lead, who can be as dynamic as can be, there are not 6 other people you're putting on your team to lead a team outside of Jalen Hurts. I mean, he can throw, he can run, he's clutch, he's smart with the ball, and he runs an offense to perfection. He's a straight shooter, straight leader, man. And I know there's a lot of different things about his stats. And okay, well, Jalen Hurts, he's not top 10 in passing. He hasn't been top 10 in passing besides one time in one season since he's been in the league. I understand all of that, and I understand that perspective. Trust me, I've abused the stats of Jalen Hurts not being a top 5 quarterback. But this is where I have to turn back and just be honest with it, because this man can truly do everything on the field. Yes, he might not be as accurate as a Josh Allen or a Lamar Jackson, but he can still get the ball to where it needs to be in a timely manner. He still goes through his progressions and hits the open target and puts the ball exactly where it needs to be. And not only during the game, but in the clutchest moments of the game, Jalen Hurts does this. We've seen against the Chiefs. Obviously, we know he didn't throw the ball too much, but times where they decided to throw the ball, he put it exactly where it needed to be to capitalize on the play and take advantage of the defense. That's what you need from your quarterback at all times, regardless of what the stats say of how accurate he is. If he's not the most accurate in the NFL, as long as he's putting the ball where it needs to be to take advantage of the defense, you can't really be mad at him. And for anybody who are throwing those stats around time after time of, okay, well, Hurts isn't this. He hasn't been top 10 in this, and he's not top 5. He can't throw. He hasn't thrown the ball. The offense doesn't even allow him to throw the ball. I get all of those arguments about the stats. But one thing I'll tell you, this is one stat you need to hear, because it's one thing to not like the Eagles' game plan. This is what Hurts can't help, that he's in a run system. He can't help that he has the best running back in the NFL and has to give it to Saquon Barkley. He can't help that type of thing. I don't like the Eagles either. But in the fourth quarter of 1-score games, Jalen Hurts has the highest QBR of any quarterback in the last 3 seasons. If that don't tell you he's clutch, if that don't tell you he can't run or he can run and he can pass the ball and he's smart with the ball and run the offense to perfection, I don't know what does. There's not a lot of quarterbacks who show up big in clutch moments of the game. Yes, they are accurate. There are some quarterbacks who are more accurate than him, but there are not 6 other quarterbacks in the NFL based on last season and so far this season that have Jalen Hurts beat from an overall perspective in a dynamic perspective of what a quarterback can bring to a team. I'm sorry. It's just not the case, man. And I'll leave you with this because I know a lot of people are going to continue to abuse some stats about what Jalen Hurts can't do and why he's not throwing the ball. I get it. That's what you're supposed to do. If you go back and forth, if you say he's not a top 5 quarterback and I say he is, you're supposed to bring up some stats about it. So I'm going to leave you with this. Aside all of my stat heads, everybody who's like, a crazy stat head and they refuse to put Jalen Hurts as a top 5 quarterback from a statistical perspective. Anyone who looks at it and they're like, no, Hurts could never be a top 5 quarterback because he doesn't throw the ball enough and he doesn't have the stats to back him up in terms of being a top 5 quarterback. I'll leave you with this. Troy Aikman. Is Troy Aikman not one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL? Is Troy Aikman Hall of Famer, 3 times Super Bowl champion? Is he not one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL? Assuming the answer is yes, of course he is. You got to remember, his stats, when you compare him to a lot of guys in his time, after him and before him, are garbage. When you look at the numbers, only look at the numbers. You would not think Troy Aikman was as great as he was, and you would not think he's one of the best quarterbacks to play the game if you only look at the numbers of what he's doing. He's not top 10 in passing of all time. He doesn't have a high completion percentage up there with the greats on that list. But at the end of the day, he was smart with the ball and he won his team games. He won ball games. He took care of the ball. He got it from point A to point B accurately. He did what he needed to do to win ball games. So if you take that logic from there, if anybody who's saying Troy Aikman is a guaranteed Hall of Famer like he is and deserved a Hall of Famer and one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game, if you say that, Troy Aikman, best quarterback to play the game, one of them, how can you not consider Jalen Hurts one of the best quarterbacks in the game right now and a top 5 quarterback? How can you leave him out of that list? It's just crazy to me because the logic, it's almost forced. It's almost forced to leave Jalen Hurts out of that top 5 quarterback spot. And it's crazy. I'm on the side. I've been on the side of, he's not there just yet. A lot of people are playing at a high level, but Hurts has been consistent in everything that he's done since he's been in the NFL. You say he can't throw. We've seen what he did to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Okay, you say he's inaccurate, but yet in the fourth quarter, he's showing up clutch and completing his passes. Highest QBR in the fourth quarter of any quarterback in the last 3 years. So you can throw all these stats around of he's not throwing the ball, but ultimately he has a smaller portion of sample size to use of, okay, well, we're watching him throw the ball just as much as Josh Allen, or where we're not watching him throw the ball just as much as Josh Allen. So these things, it does make a difference. I understand. And you can manipulate the stats however you want to. But ultimately, this is a guy who has been leading his team and getting wins. And ultimately, if I'm a head coach, bro, that's what I want on my team. I want someone who is very dynamic, can do it all, can throw, run, pass, protects the ball, smart, and ultimately getting my team to win. Hurts has been winning ever since. I mean, he's been winning since we've known who he was. So I have to give him his credit there, man. And, I get it. Some people might not like the Eagles. I don't like the Eagles. But you got to put him up there in a top 5 quarterback slot. It's almost disrespectful at this point to not put him as a top 5 quarterback, at least so far in the beginning of the season. Based on last season, he's for sure a top 5 quarterback. This season so far, he still remains in that slot. Now we'll revisit the conversation come mid-season of who's the top 5 quarterback. But as of now, he's up there, man. And I don't think it'll change too often unless Dak Prescott has a monster season, which is possible, unless Baker Mayfield continues to tear it up how he's been doing. He's earned a lot of respect. I don't think there's many guys you could replace in that top 5 slot for Jalen Hurts. He's up there. He's in that conversation, man. He's definitely solidified that 5 spot based on last season and coming into this season. Yeah, he ain't throw the ball every play, or yeah, he doesn't throw the ball every play, but that's not his fault. It's the game plan. He's carrying out the game plan and he's finding ways to win the ball game. So I'm not upset at that, but I'm happy for it. And I mean, wish him the best of success. I just hope he don't win another Super Bowl because I want the Falcons to win. Other than that, I'm gonna leave y'all on a positive note here. And the positive note for the episode is just gonna simply be to just be grateful for whatever it is, man. Be grateful for whatever you're able to do. Even if that's just simple things like going for a run, working out, walking. Just be grateful for certain things, because there's always someone that wishes they had exactly what you had, and not even in a hating sense, but just something where it's unfortunate. So I'm gonna just leave it at that. Even with the job, I know everybody hate their damn job, or a large majority. I'll say that a large majority hates their job, but you gotta be grateful for it. Some people trying to get a job and can't get a job right now. So, and they're qualified, but I'm gonna just say that. Be grateful for something. So just find some things to be grateful about. Say to yourself, give me 3 things, and just give yourself 3 things on occasion of what you're grateful about, because it's always something that you can be grateful for. Other than that, man, that's all I got. So that's a positive note. I'm gonna leave y'all with that, and then I'll be back. It's the weekend, so have a great weekend. We'll be back later on next week, and so on and so on and so on.